the masquerade ball. And so our heroes, after their last successful mission, go back to Already. And we're told by Baron Gregory about a masquerade ball. And so they traveled there, and on the way they came across a traveling merchant and bought a few potions. But then they came across a very bad thunderstorm, delaying them just a little, causing them a little bit of fatigue. And so the story goes now, the masquerade ball. Baron Gregory had given the heroes an invitation to the social event of the season, Lord Theodore's masquerade ball. Bit of a got about, even now, mutters Gregory, but Theo was a great hero in his day. One of these shadow binders, what? Best go and warn him he might be on the overlord's list, says Baron Zacharith. You're not going to go dressed like that, are you? As they entered the Lord Theodore's estate, the music and the bustle of masked guests goes silent, and then they heard a scream. A man's voice bellows, "How did you get in here?" Ahead you see a guest with hair the color of honey remove her mask as minions of the overlord hulk behind her. "They're with me, and I have an invitation." Casually the woman tears the mask from the burly guest before her, then drags him to her and sinks her fangs into his neck. She is a vampire. Wiping the guest's blood from her lips, she gestures to her minions. "Find me Lord Theodore and bring him to the vault." With the guest wearing mask, and the vampire, with all the guests wearing masks, everybody, the heroes and the vampire, will have their work cut out finding Lord Theodore, especially since they didn't know what he even looks like. You best grab every guest you can and escort them back through the front door while the old lord's minions try to do the same. And so it was Lady Pharaoh. No, Lady Eliza Pharaoh. Lady Eliza Pharaoh. Lord Merrick married abruptly after his brother Sir Ulrich died, and his new bride Eliza was, all agreed, calmly and well spoken. But many also now feel that the marriage marked the beginning of his side to evil. And Grisbin the Thirsty wondered, who are these pharaohs? And why do they keep popping up? And will any more of them keep popping up? That question would be far from answered. And so the heroes had the task ahead of them, find out who was guest, who was Lord Theodore, all the while having minions of the overlord in there with them. And so there were zombies there in front of our heroes, and guests all around with the mask. Averick Allwright decided he would go first. He would find a zombie to be in his way. So spending his fatigue and moving forward, he decided to strike a zombie and try to unmask a guest, all in the same move. So Averick swung his mighty iron battle axe at the zombie and hit the creature. But it was not a killing blow, only a glancing one. And so, unable to unmask the guests and kill the monster at the same time, he decided to try and kill the monster with his second blow. And that was a miss. Too preoccupied with what he tried to do. Jane Fairwood decided she would go next, but before she could even go, she felt something on her foot. And it was a tripwire. but she was successfully able to evade it. And so she decided what she would do next. She would try the same kind of move as Albrecht. So she spent her fatigue, moved forward, trying to kill a zombie and trying to unmask another guest. And so she swung her broadsword barely at the zombie in front of her, and she hit the creature. And though she hit a good enough blow, and mighty a blow it was good enough to kill the creature. And so she decided to use another action to try and unmask a guest to see what it was. But the guest turned out to be a hideous flesh molder in disguise. And then it attacked Fairwood, taking her by surprise. But it missed. An errant blow it was. Grisbin the Thirsty decided it was time for him to act. And so he moved forward, spending all his fatigue, and attacked the flesh molder that Janan had just uncovered. And so Grisbin swung his mighty axe and hit the flesh molder. But it still was not good enough to kill it. So he swung again. This time it killed the beast. And so Leoric of the book had a decision to make. He decided he would spend some of his fatigue as well and try to kill off the zombie in front of him. Using his staff of light, he aimed it at the zombie. And it was a good hit. Still not good enough to fail the thing, even though it was already wounded. And so one last time, he pulled back his staff. But it was a complete and utter miss. And so now the monsters decided it was their turn to have some fun. And so the zombies amazingly went first, and that wounded master zombie somehow used some kind of magic to make him a little bit faster, and he attacked Leoric of the book, and it was a miss. But he made a second attack, and this time it was a hit. Leoric made his defense and took damage, a decent blow. And then he felt something akin inside of him. Something rotten, something sick, something diseased. And so the zombies moved. One zombie moved up towards Albrecht and attacked him. Albrecht defended. He too felt the scratch of a sickness come upon him. And then another zombie moved forward and attacked Fairwood. And it hit her as well. And she took damage, and she too felt the power of some sort of sickness come upon her. And then a zombie quickly unmasked one of the guests before him, and it turned out to be a flesh molder. And the flesh molder moved in front of Grisbin to attack him, while that same zombie moved back towards some more guests. And that flesh molder attacked Grisbin, but Grisbin was able to successfully defend and so no damage for him was taken. The heroes could hear in the background more sounds and noises of monsters being discovered and guests screaming. Goblins they could see in the distance were doing something with some of the guests. It looked like they were trying to take some of them away. What was going on, the heroes didn't know, but it was time to get past this first rush of monsters and make their way back there. And so the heroes had a choice in how they would do that. The first one to go was Leoric. He would try to finish off the master zombie for the last time, but the disease was bothering him. Something was bothering him, but it wasn't enough to affect him. And so he raised his staff of light and attacked the zombie. And so the master zombie finally fell dead before the light. Leoric thought he would take out the zombie next to him as well, to give Albrecht a chance to move on. And so he attacked with his staff, and that zombie too fell dead. Freed up now to make a move, Albrecht Albright. He too felt the disease upon him, but it did not affect him, and his healthy body was able to shake it off. And so he decided he would move forward and attack the zombie that was going for other patrons. And so Albrecht moved, attacking the zombie going after one of the guests. But it was a complete and utter miss. Grispin the Thirsty attacked the flesh molder in front of him, and he missed. And so he tried to swing again, and this time it was a hit. But the flesh molder still stood. Fairwood decided she would take out the flesh molder for him. But the display of disease, at first strong upon her, faded away. And so she attacked, but she missed. And so she attacked again, this time hitting, and this time killing. The flesh molder was dead. One of the goblins that had a prisoner in tow made for the exit, and it escaped with one of its prisoners. Things were happening fast now. A goblin had escaped with one of the guests in tow, and one of the flesh molders that had disguised itself as a human at the masquerade ball had also kidnapped one of the patrons and made out. The zombie next to Albrecht grabbed one of the patrons, and it too was on its way out, while goblins moved forward to help them. And so the goblins decided they would cover and try to shoot. And so shoot they did. They shot, two of them did, at Albrecht Albrecht. The first one missed, but somehow or another some kind of magic happened, and the goblin was able to shoot again, and this time he hit Albrecht Albrecht. The blow was not a hard one. And so the other goblin shot as well. And again, the blow was not hard, but now it was starting to add up on him. They could hear Eliza laughing in the background, screaming in joyous pleasure. What would the heroes do? What could they do? And the zombie there that was free attacked Fairwood. And it hit her with a good hit. And the disease that she thought she had got ridden earlier, she felt it come back again. Harder this time. Could she fight it off a second time? That had yet to be seen. And so the heroes now would have to make their move, and it would have to be a good one. Everett Albrecht used his fire flask that he had bought from the merchant on the way here and threw it at the goblins in front of him. And it was a hit. One goblin fell dead to the ground. The other goblin was still alive. And so Averick decided he would search and see what he could find that was next to him. Fairwood decided she would attack. The disease had no effect on her again this time, and so she decided she would try to end, finally, the zombie in front of her. And she hit the fell creature. But it did not kill her. And so she swung back and struck again. This time, the zombie was dead. Grisbin the Thirsty, Leoric the Book were coming up from the rear to try and help. But before Grisbin could even move, something snagged him. It was a web trap, but he was able to overcome the web trap. But it still got some of Fairwood, and so it immobilized her. Grisbin decided he would now make his move and rush forward to do what he could. Leoric of the Book also moved forward, and he decided he would attack one of the goblin that was wounded, with his staff. And he hit the fell creature and killed it. And that was the best the heroes could do for now. It was now the monster's turn. And so the zombie that had the guest in tow, it too moved off the board and into the cave below and escaped with a prisoner. Only one more guest to look for to see if it would be Lord Theor. And so one of the goblins went into the room while Lady Eliza Farrow decided to make her finally make her appearance. And so it was that the goblins were able to open the door and get the final two guests. One of them turned out to be a flesh molder, which in turn grabbed the remaining guest and was making off to the exit with it, while Eliza Farrow started to finally make her appearance. But the heroes had one last chance to try to stop, and Grisbin the Thirsty swung his mighty axe at the flesh molder that had the prisoner. And he missed. And so he tried to do it again. And he missed again. Curse their luck. Curse it. Curse it 3 times. But Leoric of the Book would try to go, and he would shoot his staff of light at that flesh molder. And he would hit the creature. But the creature still lived, only taking a glancing blow. And so what would the heroes do? Could they prevail? We would find out soon.